Hello, and welcome to our next video. This video is going to be covering the economy of the game. Now we've been, previewing and talking this up for a while now, so we're really excited to get into it. Today we're going to be going over the draw phase and the build phase step by step in detail, so you will know how those run and how a good portion of the game will work whenever you get your copy. We'll also be going over the setup of the game. That's one very unique thing to our game, that it's going to take less than 5 minutes for setup and less than 5 minutes for breakdown. And that's because of our organizer system. And with that system, it also saves your game wherever you decide to pause it. Now we're really excited to get into it and show you what we have. All right, here we're at the setup of the game, and we'll be quickly just going over how easy it is to set the game up. You'll have the army pad. It's an 8x11, and it will have information on the front of recording your troops. We'll go into detail that in a moment. Each player gets one, and it will be a pad. And we'll just mock setting up a 4-player here. Then each player gets their player card organizer, which will include the faction that they've chosen. And this is the really cool thing about the organizer system. With it coming out in pieces like this, it will speed up setup of the game. Then the game decks will be set out in an area that's easily accessible to everyone or whoever you consider the banker. The last thing that you'll pull out are the resource pads. Resource pads is where you're going to be recording your economy, your resources, and each player will also get one of those. And then the junior legal pad that represents the rebel army pad. And in battles, this is where you'll be recording what happens to the rebel troops, who gets the kill, damage, and that sort of thing. And that will be set aside until a battle. Now, just to give you an idea of what the footprint of this game is going to be, this is a 4th edition Twilight Imperium box. All of this fit in here with room to spare. So the box is going to be smaller slightly than the Twilight Imperium 4th edition. Now, one thing that is noted here is that there would be a 3rd and 4th player also setting up their areas simultaneously, so all of this stuff would be going on all at the same time. And this is set up for a full 4-player game. And there you go. That's setting up the entire game, a 4-player, with the Tooks Rebellion. All right, now that the game setup is all done, here we have the player area. Now, this is how I set up my play area. Everyone, again, with how fluid this system is, can set it up a little bit differently. If they're right or left-handed, that can be set up differently. Again, this is all can be moved around according to how you would like to organize it. This is generally how I like to organize it. Right over here is the card organizer box, right off screen, and then the internal deck, which is closest to me, and the external deck, which is closest to everyone else, just to remind me. Now, there will be obviously backs to this, so that won't matter. Right here is the army sheet. We have the buildings right here, and again, right off screen right here is the resource pad where our resources are recorded. And I have noticed with the different people that have played this, they have all organized it in different ways. Sometimes the buildings are up here, sometimes the resource pad is in a different place. And I just decided to let people continue to set it up how they like, because they have a certain amount of space that they can play with, so there shouldn't be an absolutely demanded standard. Now, after you get everything set up, you have already picked your factions, and you're all ready to go. As we've gone over in the building video, you start with your 3 buildings, your keep, your barracks, and your range, because they're the starter buildings, which gain you your initial 3 favor. And then on resources, you get the 10 coin, 5 wood, 5 metal, and 0 stone. And then you begin with the draw phase. Now, in the very first draw phase, you do skip certain steps, so we'll just go through it part by part so you can understand what the draw phase is and what all of the different parts of it are. Now, the very first thing you do in a draw phase is you draw the war cards, but only on turn 4, and then rules will adjust those numbers afterwards. But on turn 4, that's whenever you draw war at the beginning of the draw phase. Now, the war card will run a lot like the internal event card, and you have seen these before. We've already gone over what the information is and how it works, and how you interact with this card. When you draw with it, if you can play it, you interact with it, get all the information, get all of the units underneath, and then set the card aside for the conflict phase. The next thing that we go over is the resources that you're going to gather. Now again, in the very first turn, your resources are already gathered for you. That's the recorded amount, so you don't gather resources again. That is skipped. The next part is the combat deck. Now the combat deck we have shown off before. It's a nice big deck right here, and it's got all of these different cards in here that will make up your hand when you're fighting in combat. Each player, starting with the main player, and the main player set by a dice roll right in the beginning, is 7 cards. And then, once those cards are drawn, you can look at them, organize them how you want. It's not a bad hand, really. Got a little bit... Ooh, I'm range heavy, actually, but got a good bit of defense. Now these can go into your organizer right here, so you don't have anything in your hand. The next thing is the event decks. Now, each player, at the same time, draws an internal event. They look at it, good internal event, and then that can go into your hand, into your little organizer. And then, once everybody's done with that, everybody draws an external card at the same time, looks at that. That's also a good one. And that goes into your hand. And that finishes the internal-external draw and comes to the end of the draw phase. Now, as we've gone over before, those events get played at certain times, and the card symbol up at the top will designate when those cards are played. The next phase that we go into is the build phase. And this is another spot where this game saves a whole lot of time. In many other strategy games and board games, when players take their turns, everyone else really doesn't have anything to do while they're taking their turns. In our game, during the build phase, everybody does a certain number of things in any order as many times as they have resources for, all simultaneously. So in the build phase, if you have any defensive buildings, they tick back on. You can construct new buildings or upgrade buildings that you already have, as long as you have the resources and the other requirements that we've gone over in the building video. You can recruit new troops, and this is where the army sheet comes in. So let's say I wanted to recruit some tier 1 swords. Now, it's 2 coin, 1 wood, and 2 metal for the levy 1 swords. So then I first ask the banker, or if I'm the banker, I grab myself a blank. I record the resources that I have just spent on my resource pad. And then I record the information how I like on the card. Alright, so the blank is recorded, levy sword number 1, and now I record it on the army sheet. The army sheet has these little squares here that you can see. Now, each of these squares represents 1 troop strength. So for the Levy Sword being 15 troop strength, we have 15 ticks. Now, some people tick to make an X or a race, however you'd like to do it, that's fine. But each of those boxes is just a spot to where you can record the health of the troop. And then, however you'd like to record that this is the Levy Sword 1, you can put in a little box here, and then any other information that you would like to record. Maybe if the unit has a special ability or has been trained at the Cal Academy and has a buff, that can be recorded in this space. And that's how this troop sheet works. Now the troop sheet, the army sheet, is separated into 3 categories: the infantry, ranged, and cavalry. Now tier 1, you can train 4 of each type of unit. Now in the build phase, again, as long as you have the resources, you can build any number of troops in any order you like, because everyone else will be doing this at the exact same time. Same thing with the buildings. In battle, this is where you'll be recording damage that you are suffering in just a really quick and easy way. And with this sheet having a front and back side to record information, again, this is a very easy way for you to record information and to save your game for future play. Now, if your troops do take damage in the build phase, you reinforce them back up to full strength. You heal them up to full strength. And this is the time whenever you would spend a coin and recover up to 5 troop strength. And the cool thing is it's not 1 coin on the 5 troop strength of like Levy Sword. So let's say these guys had only suffered 2 damage and you have to waste 1 coin to recover 2. That's 5 troop strength damage anywhere of any unit. So if one has taken 2, and then a ranged unit has taken 2, and a cavalry has taken 1, you can spend 1 coin and heal them all up to full. Also, at the beginning of the build phase, or whenever you'd like, each of your units naturally recovers 1 troop strength. So that is the other thing to keep in mind during the build phase. One of the other things that you can do during the build phase is if you have used abilities like parry or quick or sprint, which are all abilities in the game. Whenever you use them in battle, they get set aside somewhere. You record it on the unit that it has been used, which could be a check mark or anything else, and then the cards can be laid on the keep. That's what I do. Some people just record it on the card, and then they just go back and buy it during this phase. They have their cost to buy back, which is 1 coin for each of these abilities. And you'd spin the coin, then these abilities go back into your hand, which go into your organizer, and then the troop has the ability back. Be sure to record in all places that you have recorded that has been used, that now you have it back. And that was our economy video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you have any comments or questions, just please ask them below in the comments or go to our Discord or Facebook. Again, that's the best way to get a hold of us and interact with us. We generally respond the same day or as quickly as we can. The next video that we're going to be going over the battles in detail. Not playing a battle, but going over all of the information and nuances that players can use during those battles, how units move around and how they interact with the different formations of the battlefield. It's going to be really cool going over the conflict phase and the discard phase, but it's really going to be focused in on those battles and how they're run. Now, we are also looking forward to getting to March 27th and 28th when the virtual showcase with Tabletop Gaming Magazine will be going on. That is where we will be playing a full playthrough of the first 4 rounds and a whole battle. Now that video focuses on just playing the game as is, as we would as just regular players, and playing a battle like we already know. So that's why we wanted to get these videos out sooner than later. And again, I hope you enjoy these videos and you've been enjoying the information that we've been getting out as we have been. We really have liked all the feedback that we've been getting and all of the interest that we've been getting. And one thing I can say is in the month of April, we are setting up all these interviews with different content creators for board games all across YouTube. And that's going to be our next sort of advertising that we're going to get out to you is when those videos will be up and who they're going to be with. And that's going to be a really exciting time because we're going to have players outside of our test group finally get eyes on the game.